Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Cleveland Heights City Council to order. Addie, roll call, please.
Posh.
Here.
Petrus. Maddox. Russell.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Cobb. Sheets.
And Councilor Petrus is excused this evening, but he will be with us later on Zoom. Okay. The order of business this evening calls for public comment, but before we do that, we have Director Zamp standing in front of us, and he'll do an introduction and Planning Commission recommendation for the subject of severance. So go for it.
Thank you, Council President. And yes, absolutely correct. Tonight's purpose is really to hear from the public. It's a public hearing, but we wanted to just give some introductory remarks and remind folks who are here and who are watching what tonight's meeting is all about. So just as a quick reminder, our zoning codes, which is Title 11 of our codified ordinances, we always preach that those are living, breathing documents and they should be examined and they should be changed. And there's a bunch of different ways that can happen. It can be council doing it, it can be the mayor, it can be the planning commission, it can be via petition. And in this case, MPAC Collective, the master developer for Severance, petitioned the city to make some changes that create a Severance overlay zone that are necessary for the redevelopment of Severance. And so those were encapsulated in two ordinances, ordinance number 226 of 2025, which are the zoning text amendments, and ordinance number 227, which is the zoning map change. They go together. And so here's the process and the meetings that have occurred to date. And you can see there's a bunch of different meetings, including original introduction at council on November 3rd, and then referrals to the Planning Commission, Planning Development Committee, and then back here in number 7 at public hearing. That sets it up to allow council, if it wants to consider adopting these ordinances. And you can see there's been a bunch of different times for public comment in public, but then also via email and in writing. So there have been about 72 separate comments received, commenters received on the document since its first reading on the 3rd, and that includes the public, council, the Planning Commission, which had a lot of recommendations, staff had additional recommendations, as did MPAC, had some changes that they wanted to make. What we also did is there's a lot of really smart people both in Cleveland Heights and adjacent to Cleveland Heights. So we have reached out, and I'm sure others have reached out to some experts in the field that may be in adjoining communities, both current and former planning directors, and get their take on it. But we've also had our landscape architects, consultants take a look at the code, our Gridix team take a look at the code. So we're not just keeping that in-house, but I did want to make a pretty strong point that this isn't a code or an ordinance that was slapped together by MPACT and then rubber stamped by the planning department, and here you go. There was a lot of input that we provided early on before it was ever submitted, and then since. And I just wanted to give 3 examples, but really 2 to highlight. One of them was originally the code had a separate zoning process, and Karen and myself and our team said, this should be similar to the city's rezoning process. We want, Severance is a special place, but it should still follow our processes. So that let's try to keep it as consistent with our existing code as possible. Another change that was before it was even introduced was the addition of a technical advisory committee, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that was something that was not in the code to begin with, and something, honestly, that we want to explore to apply citywide. And then uses, we had a lot of comments on uses. So this has resulted in new exhibits. So the ordinances that are before you, which is the legalese that says whereas and therefore, those pretty much are staying the same except for some of the dates. But it's the meat of this is really those exhibits that exist behind that ordinance. And so as of the 11th, there are revised and substitute ordinances exhibits to ordinance number 226, which are the zoning text amendments. And those were posted on Friday and are available on the website so people can see all the changes. There's even a comparison document that shows what has been changed since the November Planning Commission meeting. So attachment A is the stuff outside of the SOZ, and then attachment B, or substitute attachment B, is everything within the SOZ, and this includes all of the comments from the Planning Commission, their original recommendation, which was for council to move forward, and then their most recent review on last Wednesday, which had just 3 additional changes related to civic spaces and some uses. And so that's all incorporated in here. The second ordinance, number 227, there are no currently any changes to that, so that ordinance and its exhibits remain the same. One of the comments and points of clarification that we've received is, the process is confusing, and what's the difference between the existing process and the proposed process, and is the city losing control? So we tried to put together a diagram here, a flow chart that shows that difference. So the top is the proposed SOZ, Severance Overlay District, and the bottom is the current S1 zoning. And there's a lot of words here, and this has been posted so folks can review it on their own time. But I wanted to point out really 3 differences, and these are really the only 3 differences. So the first one is, and I'll walk up just because I want to point to something. The TAC, Technical Advisory Committee, which I mentioned earlier, is an additive component to the process. So it currently does not exist, but it's a pre-application entity. So it's an entity which meets prior to an applicant actually applying, and it allows there to be input from the city and from all different parts of the city prior to the formal process. That's additive. It does not exist today, but it doesn't replace the actual process, which in this case goes to the Planning Commission, and then their review and ultimate decision on whether it's approved with conditions, or approved or not approved. The difference between the S1 and the SOZ is that in the SOZ, the Planning Commission does that work in a public forum. In the S1, that work is done through the Board of Control. And there is a referral through the Planning Commission, but in the S1, the Planning Commission only is a recommendation body. The only other difference, and you'll see here, is that in the S1 zoning, which is on the bottom, after it goes through the Board of Control and the Planning Commission, then it goes to the Architectural Board of Review. And in the SOZ process, it is purposely having the ABR as a recommendation and advisory body up front. And that's because that's on purpose, because this is a form-based code, and so the architectural standards are built into the zoning itself. And that all leads to, if approved, a building permit, no matter which process you go through. So really, it's not much of a different process. There's an additive TAC in the SOZ, and the Planning Commission replaces the Board of Control. A second area of concern that folks had was about the Milken Woods, and are those going to be preserved, and concern about that. And so one of the big changes is a change in language from a buffer area to a conservation area, and that's really important because that area is an important natural environment that needs to be conserved and preserved. And so we asked Impact to put together an image that shows not only that 150-foot conservation area remains as it exists today and exists in the S1 zoning, but that there's actually additional buffer or conservation areas, particularly at the eastern end of the Milliken School. There's also standards within the code that say that you can't build right up to the woods, so there's even further buffering from that conservation area that is part of this code that isn't necessarily part of the existing code. And lastly, there's been some real conversation about the ability to do a small, a large, a medium-sized park here, and the previous versions of the zoning did not allow for that larger park. But that change has been made to allow essentially larger parks to be created because the street standards would not apply in a civic or open space. And lastly, in speaking with my counterparts in Cleveland, when they went through this process with their planning commission and then their council, they said that they did a sort of compare and contrast. And so I wanted to do just a mini one here because, again, we want to hear from folks of what the S1, which is our current zoning, permits today. And you can see it permits drive-throughs and big box retail and multifamily housing that has no character to it. These are all as of right in our code today. And what the SOZ would permit and would incentivize are mixed-use development like the left there in Pittsburgh and parks, that's a dog park actually in Ohio City, and a cottage court, which is a housing typology also in Ohio City. So of course, this is a little bit slanted to make a point, but the point is that you can do the previous slide today as of right, and and actually you couldn't do this stuff as of right today with the S1 zoning. And lastly, just a reminder to everyone, we've tried to post as much information as possible on the website. So not only do we have the most up-to-date exhibits and ordinances, but we also have the videos of all the meetings, and there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, and a lot of resources about form-based codes and their value. So with that, I think the rest of the evening is to sit and hear from folks.
Thank you, Director Zanft. The two pieces of legislation that we're discussing this evening are ordinance number 226, 2025, and ordinance amending various sections of Part 11 zoning code of the codified ordinances of the City of Cleveland Heights to create a severance overlay zone, and ordinance number 227-2025, an ordinance changing the zoning map of the City of Cleveland Heights to map the severance overlay zone, SOZ, on Severance Town Center and adjacent parcels generally east of South Taylor Road, south of Mayfield Road, west of Crest Road, and north of Severn Road. We're going to open the public hearing up right now. When you come up, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please remember, if you wish to speak, that you need to submit a piece of paper to Addie over here in the corner. When your 3 minutes are up, you'll hear the beep, beep, beep. And I ask you to remember, when you step up to the podium, please remember to state your name and the street you live on or your neighborhood. First one, Addie.
Michael Morse.
Hi, I'm Michael Morse. I live on Crest Road near the school and own property on Severn Road. The reason I'm here today is looking at the updated map, the latest map showing the conservation areas. I am very encouraged to see the shift in thinking about how we can protect and preserve that area for the benefit of our community, our environment, and our future. By preserving that area today, by protecting that area today, we make it possible for an enhanced area for ourselves and our descendants many years into the future. I would like to read just a very brief statement here, which I've read in other forums. Hopefully won't take too long. The woodlands surrounding Severance are a unique environmental resource which should be understood as vital to our future. Any plan for our community should treat this area as an asset to our community. Many of us choose to live here because the woodlands provide a better quality of life to our neighborhood and Cleveland Heights in general. They are not just a lot of trees. This is an ecosystem. There's a mile-long corridor stretching east from South Taylor to Millikan School and then north to Mayfield. Including the Millikan School and playground, this area is a headwaters area of a major branch of the Dugway Brook, includes vernal pools and other features of wetland environments. We should be planning a future to preserve and enhance this environment for our future. And I appreciate that through this process, we have seen a shift in that thinking in the way that the map has been updated just within the past couple of weeks. Thank you.
Linda Strefsky.
Good evening. Linda Strievsky, Delamere Drive. Appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight, and I'm going to keep my comments brief. I've looked at the zoning overlay and the housing study, and I've attended some prior meetings about this proposal. So I come to this from a career spent in real estate law. And I want to just say, I appreciate that Impact contemplated requesting zoning changes, but the overlay approach seems rather extensive, and it was presented to council only at the very end of October. So my understanding is the council wasn't expecting a request for approval of an entire overlay zoning map before year end, which practically meant a month and a half of consideration time. So I would just suggest that the adjustments are helpful. The discussion, I think, is producing some good changes and some revisions that seem appropriate, but that people need time to review it, particularly council, so that they can fully understand how this would all work out and what the consequences may be. So I think some of the things that need some further focus include how to preserve the city's goals for severance as expressed in the 2023 Board of Control vision statement. Now, if council thinks that vision statement needs to be tweaked, that could certainly be done. But I think it's important to keep that concept of an overall vision and having an overall development plan that can guide the use of this whole project. An overall development plan is going to be very important to end up with the whole Severance area moving forward in a way that's in the best interest of the city and its residents. And secondly, also for the best interest of the city and the residents, there needs to be accountability to voters. And that is only achieved if elected officials are involved in the decision making. So I don't think it's wise to limit the city council's involvement to approving an overlay zoning plan. Next point, that the council needs to scrutinize the boundaries of the property that's ultimately determined by council to belong in an overlay zone if council wants an overlay zone. This plan adds property around Milliken that doesn't really seem to be, involved in the Severance footprint and perhaps should not be included at all. I would also say the city should address separately any changes to regulations that relate to other zoning issues, such as institutional uses in residential neighborhoods. Those really should be viewed separately and discussed separately. Finally, the overlay plan is premised on market demands for certain uses, but I think there needs to be a lot more focus and discussion about how realistic the projections are and what the city's priorities are for uses. This also relates to the lack of an overall development plan. It's not in the long-term interest of the city to end up with disparate individual projects that don't present a productive whole on this site. So again, I would suggest that council needs a little bit more time to review this and consider the potential consequences of the approach and whether it needs further adjustments. Thank you.
Paul Volpe.
Evening. You know me, you know my background, and that's important to my comments. You also know that I sent you all, and hopefully you had a chance to read it and think about it, a detailed memorandum this morning regarding my opinions on this. Understand that tonight, for many of us, it's about much more than a zoning code. It just really is. It's about a project. It's about the redevelopment of Severance. And there's an underlying question here as to why are we focusing so much of our time and energy at the last minute on the zoning code that is not going to bring us developers, is not going to cause one red cent to be raised to rebuild infrastructure, roads, demolition, utilities, all those other things that are necessary to know about in advance of doing any redevelopment. And most importantly, the public conversation hasn't been as, I'll use the word honest, as I would have expected to be in Cleveland Heights, in this community. There's been crowdsourced conversations that have accomplished very little, and most people agree with that, who've spent time at those. Saying what you want, I want a bakery, I want a bowling alley, I want a this, I want a that, doesn't cause it to happen. And I don't see that long list of things reflected in what we've got from the consultant or the development coordinator for NAMDAR, Impact, reflected in any way, shape, or form in this, other than acknowledging that meetings were held. Well, good planning doesn't come from the more meetings you have, the better the plan's going to be. It's about comprehensive thinking. And it's about real community engagement, discussion. We don't discuss in meetings like this. All we do is get up and talk and say the same thing over and over and hear the same thing over and over from both sides of the other side. And we end up based on who gets the most votes. That's just not good enough for us. As I said, we need to hit the brakes, respect the fact that we got a new mayor who's not here, who's going to be installed in the first of the year, enter into an internal dialogue with our planning department. I would hope that could be involved, because we championed this long before Impact or anybody else even cared about Severance. Most people forgot it exists. And to offer this zoning code with all these changes at the last minute is illogical and unreasonable. Please, it's just time. Okay, we've waited 20 years to do something with this. Let's do it right.
Lee Chilcote.
Lee Chilcote, 2322 Delamere Drive in Cleveland Heights. I've had the opportunity to really study Title 11 changes, and they're obviously very extensive. What I understand, which is, I think, misunderstood by the public, is that this process will involve adoption first of the two new chapters of the zoning code, which will establish the form zoning approach. It'll involve the adoption of the map. A lane ahead will be questions of abatement, tax abatement, and also TIF financing, and also a new community area, which is a state-enabled code. Notwithstanding all that, I am very supportive of this legislation. I have one concern, is that there were 15 or so comments in the commentary, each of which will said that they will be reviewed. I've called the Planning Commission members, and as far as I can tell, not all of those have been addressed. Perhaps some have, but it's very confusing, which leads to the conclusion that we should not go forward with this evening or on Wednesday. In addition to that, I have three comments, and then I'll end. The first is, my understanding is that in 111502 B7, the City Council has authority over the issuance of the final building permit, which is conditioned upon presenting a final development plan. So the process will move from all the processes that Eric just outlined, but the council does have an opportunity for a final say on this, according to both in S1, S2, and the SOC districts. And that's clear. Those changes were made in the code on October 28th, and as far as I can tell, still remain. I would like confirmation that, assuming for those purposes that the code does allow the council to have the final say, I would recommend that for any developments over 150,000 square feet, that there be a 60% requirement of council. The second recommendation I would make is to remove the green space buyout provisions. Mixing money and zoning is not a good idea. That can be developed if there is a single developer that develops a large portion of this, or multi-developers, and they need those buyout provisions, and they can deal with it in separate legislation. And finally, I would support the AMI approach that is outlined in the legislation. I think that is it's been balanced and is very helpful. Thank you.
Larry Nowak. Larry? Oh, okay.
I'm coming.
Didn't see you there.
I'm no longer as quick as I once was. I'm I'm Larry Nowak, and I live on Edge Hill, and that's the first time I've remembered to do that, Gail. I'm so thrilled. Okay. I'm going to be very careful with this. Normally, I come up here and I just sort of talk about what I've been thinking about. I tried to get to all of you, and I hope you have it, a copy. It's a one-page sheet of my thoughts tonight. I'm going to high spot it. The most important thing that we are going to be dealing with this evening is the fact that this is probably the single most significant development decision maybe ever made in this city, but certainly likely to be made in the next 20 to 30 years. And I think that says to us, be sure we do it right. Not that we don't do it, we just do it right. So I'm going to focus on 4 things that I would love to have council think about and act on as they move forward. First, as I just said, realize this may be the most important thing that we're ever going to do here. Certainly, probably in my lifetime here. Secondly, understand that this is not our last chance. I hear people who are terribly concerned that if we let this slip by, or if we defer it and Namdar decides to step back, or Ryan decides to step back, that we've lost the possibility of redevelopment. We've already had 3 major developers approach us in the last 3 years. Okay? We stopped even looking when Ryan became engaged because there was no point in looking because we had a developer. Okay? But we know of a number of additional developers who we would approach and who are likely interested. Most importantly is this is a prime piece of property. This is the best thing inside 271 for a lot of people's thinking, and the most developable. And we're going to have opportunities to do many things with it. Some of them are going to be pretty ugly. Some of them will be pretty good, but we have to take the time to look at them. Thirdly, there is no need to just do something for exactly the reasons that I just said. And fourthly, this has been what I've been thinking since I really understood with Eric and Brian where they were on this. And by the way, I want to thank both of them for the amount of flexibility they've shown and the changes that have been incorporated, many of which are changes that SAG is absolutely supportive of, as you know. And I think it is quite absolutely correct that we continue all working together going forward. But the one thing I would add to that is that we should get outside expert neutral help. You know, it's this is a big thing. We're talking, I don't know, Paul or Ryan could probably tell you. My guess is that by the time you get through with this, you're going to have $300 or $400 million worth of development invested in this place. And that's a lifetime decision for this city. And I heard the bell. I'll make this as quick as I can.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All I am asking that we do is look at what has been proposed and say, is this particular form of form-based zoning the right one for Cleveland Heights? If it is, cha-ching. If it's not, we can change it. It's amendable. Thank you.
Harriet Applegate.
Good evening, Harriet Applegate, 1522 Crest. I have 3 points I want to make about the overlay. Number one, it's undemocratic. In survey after survey, Severance shows up as #1 priority of respondents. We, the residents, want to participate in what ends up going there. Whatever you think of SAG's ideas, the fundamental animus for all our work is to make of Severance a microcosm of our unique city, and that is something that is based not only on the desires, but the participation of its citizens. Severance is uniquely important and needs to be treated differently from other development projects. The Board of Control currently assures this by having 3 elected officials comprise the majority of the board. Eliminate the Board of Control and you eliminate accountability. Once the SOZ goes into effect, you, our elected representatives, lose oversight. Why would you cede all control to the planning department, which Planning Commission, which is not accountable to the voters. Number two, the process is too rushed. This is a major change, and City Council, as well as interested citizens, need time to carefully review it to determine repercussions, as well as how well it fits our vision of what Severance could be. Let's not say if we don't like it, we can change it. We need to get this right from the get-go, i.e. we need to take the time necessary to digest this and see if it fits our city. Number three, market study issues. Cleveland Heights commissioned a market study, which I guess was published in January 24, which said it excluded single-family detached housing from the analysis because it is not, quote, appropriate for the redevelopment of the Severance Town Center, unquote. It also said that the market can support 837 units. And the SOZ anticipates 2,500, and that this is unsustainable. The market just can't absorb that many. NAMDAR is not going anywhere, and Ryan is probably not either, we hope. NAMDAR has been inert for its entire tenure at Severance. Its business plan is to collect rents. It has no reason or motivation to get rid of impact. There are, however, tough questions you must answer. Are you willing to risk Ryan walking away even if the chances that he would are low? Are you willing to stand up to the inevitable criticism that you're standing in the way of progress or killing our only chance of moving forward? Are you willing not to take everything at face value, but to back up and look at things in perspective, gauge their probability, and acknowledge that when someone tells you something must be done right away, it's advisable to slow down? I get it if you think those risks are too high, but would implore you to think of what is good for the city in the long run. There are too many questions with this overlay, too many potential pitfalls that are hard to imagine at this juncture. This is a foundational moment and we need to get it right. If it takes more time to do that, then so be it.
Thank you, Harriet.
Jessica Cohen?
Hello, my name is Jessica Cohen. I am the current Planning Commission Chair and Councilwoman-elect for Cleveland Heights. I want to wish everyone a Freilich Chanukah, Chag Sameach, Happy Hanukkah for those who are celebrating the second night. And I wanted to share in my capacity, but not on behalf of the whole commission, that I've been present for this entire process, whether it was the 2023 Board of Control visioning. I was at those meetings. Severance itself is literally in my backyard, so this is very personal for me as well. And the Planning Commission, in its capacity, has thoroughly reviewed this zoning overlay, and there has been additional work between me and the planning staff as well that it's captured in the comments document. In my opinion, we have had a very lengthy, deeply engaged, thorough, thoughtful process to get to the zoning overlay that's been presented to council today. And I'm grateful for planning staff for their work on this. And I'm grateful for the incorporation of all of the changes that the Planning Commission recommended over our 7 hours of meeting on the zoning overlay. I want to remind council tonight of a few limitations that we have. We, as the city of Cleveland Heights, do not own the land. Our only recourse with this land when we have private ownership is land use policy and financing benefits that we may offer future developers. This zoning overlay, in my opinion, presents an excellent foundation for the city to subsequently attract developers, have conversations with developers, and say essentially Cleveland Heights is open for business. In the many, many years that Severance has been in NAMDAR's ownership, we have not had any developers willing to work with us. We have not had any developers willing to purchase the land from NAMDAR, and we as a city have not had the ability to purchase the land. This is our opportunity to shape the future. And I want to add that this zoning overlay is an option. The original S1 zoning is also available for developers. So we now have two paths that potential developers can use. This provides us flexibility as a city. This facilitates the process in our next administration of attracting developers. And I want to add, just on a side note, that the Planning Commission thoroughly reviewed everything. We're okay with the removal of the Board of Control, and there are many reasons for that, which hopefully if you watched the Planning Commission meeting, you would have seen. And I want to just say that I personally support this. I would vote for this if this is delayed. And I am on council. I certainly would vote for the approval of these ordinances, but I ask you tonight to please vote and to approve these 2 ordinances so we can continue our work on Severance and move forward as a city to development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Chris Brace.
Right, let me readjust. Good evening, folks. Lots of familiar faces, always good to see people here. For those who don't know me, which I think is probably just the crowd at this point, my name is Chris Brace. I live in the Cedar Fairmount district. And I have a whole written statement that I'm going to disregard. I think the 2 watchwords of the night are humility and time. This is a plan that is fundamentally humble. It is a foundation. It is an envelope. A lot of folks, I think, are frustrated that there's no single unifying vision here. I think that's one of the things that makes Cleveland Heights a wonderful city. I live in an apartment building that was built under no particular vision, simply a regular form-based code. I live on a street that has businesses and private commercial spaces and public spaces that were built bit by bit, piece by piece, by residents of this city, by developers in this city. This is a code here, a form-based code that sets out a shared vision for the unifying aesthetics, but leaves the precise plans, the details, up to people to build a community, to grow something naturally, to make a new business district for Cleveland Heights the way all the others were formed, by people. I think that that humility is one of the things that I admire most in the plan. It's saying, I don't know what exactly will go here, what the market will support 5, 10, 20, 25 years from now. Time will decide. And compared to some vision that we'll have to revise over and over, I think this form-based code leaves the future in our hands, in the city's hands to build. The other thing is time. Cleveland Heights does not have infinite time. We've all experienced the slow decay of this city, the ways that it has fallen apart piece by piece. Our city loses 300 people every single year. You can watch the number go down. I used to complain that we had 45,000 people in a city that was built for 60,000. We don't anymore. We have 44. Down and down and down. It's cutting into our civic services. The roads aren't paved because we can't afford to pave them. Each time we repave them, we do them shallower and shallower, hoping that, we'll get by one more year. If our population keeps falling like this, that's it. We have to act. And this is a proud course of action.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Jennifer Wintner.
Addie, how many do we have left?
4.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Jennifer Wintner on Scarborough Road. And before I launch into a few of my comments, I have a question to pose to you, council members, and I'm not asking it rhetorically. Please explain why you're considering this zoning overlay the same night that you have on your agenda a resolution to approve a contract with someone to revise the zoning code. I don't get it. As far as the overlay is based on a concept of redeveloping Severance as a dense downtown. I, like many others in the community, believe the new Severance should be more of a village. There's no documentation of demand for the density and the lack of green space included in the overlay. The zoning code does not provide the tools for creating either a downtown or a village. By omitting the need for a detailed development plan that assigns responsibility for demolition of the existing building and construction of roads, utilities, and green spaces, we will end up with buildings along the ring road if we get any construction. Cleveland Heights needs a comprehensive coordinated redevelopment of the entire Severance site with a master developer responsible for translating a vision to a plan and overseeing the implementation of a plan. The master developer of Severance must demolish most of the existing structure and install the roads, utilities, blocks, and major green spaces. Then the development sites which are ready for construction can be sold. The city needs to insist on getting a good development plan before it does anything else, including zoning or approving the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe DeWitt-Foy.
Hi, everyone. Joe DeWitt-Foy, Coleridge Road. I'm speaking as a resident and councilman-elect. So just wanted to come and offer my view of this process and express my support for it and moving forward. I wanted to address two specific concerns that have been raised to me and offer my take on them, both around timing, but one about this process being rushed or forced upon the city. And I would say that, you know, this is a huge process and huge project. And I don't know that there is an amount of time that we could take that would not feel like we are doing a big thing, because this is a big change for the city and it feels like that. But to say that it is rushed, I also don't think is totally true, in that we've had you know, a year and a half or so of working through these details and hearing from residents and lots of community feedback and meetings. And I think there has been ample time for residents to have their voices heard and for those comments to be worked into this proposal. I want to thank the Planning Commission and the Planning Department specifically for all of the time and effort they've put into consolidating all of these. But to say that it is rushed, I would offer the flip side that a lot of people in the city are very frustrated with what they see as things languishing, and specifically looking at Severance and seeing decades of not much happening and pushing the city, or being frustrated with the city for not taking action. This is a concrete step forward. This is a concrete action that the city can take. It's the first of many. We still have all of the financing pieces to get right, but this is a real actionable, tangible step forward that the city can take. The second piece I want to address is a concern about the recent election we had and transitions in both mayor and members of council. And while I understand that concern in the abstract, a lot of the people here have been very much involved in the process. Our incoming mayor has been involved as a member of council. Councilwoman-elect Cohen has been intimately involved in every detail of this. I have not been as involved as she has, but I have been very involved in the process throughout. I wholeheartedly support this proposal, and I would like to see it move forward. If it were to be pushed to January or beyond, I would happily vote for it. But in my view, there's no need to delay simply for that reason. Thank you.
Joshua Tang.
Hi, I'm Josh Tang. I live on Edge Hill. I've been in Cleveland Heights for, I think, 9 years now. And I'm a small business owner here. And for full transparency, I built the Severance Cleveland Heights.com website in part to support this project. If there's anything I've learned running a business, it's that time kills deals. If we don't actually build something, sorry. All right. This is simply a proposal for an optional zoning plan, which would let people build out according to a specific vision that is less car focused than how a lot of the city has been built today. All of the business districts in Cleveland Heights today on Cedar, on Lee, on South Taylor are all like on Mayfield, basically everything but Coventry are all subject to very high throughput traffic. This makes them not the most pleasant places to be. Even if you go to, say, Luna on Cedar Fairmount, you end up with a ton of traffic around you. This is a plan to build something that is different, to build a downtown area that would be in Cleveland Heights that we could use. And this process has been underway for at least 18 months, and I know because I've been a part of it for at least that long. So I disagree with the people who make claims that this project is being rushed. I think that's it. I had more prepared, but I will cede back my time. Thank you.
Stephanie Webb.
Hello. Hi. So I moved to Cleveland Heights very recently. I'm from West Virginia and the Severance area. Yes? My name is Stephanie Webb and my street is Belfield. It's in the Cedar Fairmont area. Fairmount. I'm from Fairmont, West Virginia, and Fairmount is hard for me to say. I'm sorry. But yeah, anyway, so I'm from West Virginia. The Severance area looks very familiar to me. It's a big wraparound parking lot. I didn't even realize, I came here with Josh. He's been talking about this forever. I didn't know we were talking about the same thing for a long time because I really had only gone to the Home Depot. Anyway, all that aside, I want to live somewhere where I could walk to see my friends, walk to coffee, to shopping, all while being inside a suburb. I grew up in a like a low population area, and I feel like I understand something about attrition or like the lived experience of attrition. I was listening to some people that were talking today, like viewpoints I hadn't heard before. This sense that we can pause and then pick this up like it's a linear process. I don't think the stars are aligning. There's only one chance this could possibly happen, but a 5-year or a 20-year like realigning of the gears, I do think is a reasonable way to look at this project. So I'm here to express my support for this zoning. Thank you.
We had one last submission, sorry. John Whitney.
Hi, my name is John Whitney. I've been living here for about 10 years, 30 Severance Circle, so just over here. I just want to very briefly voice my support, especially for walkable areas. I think that that is a big improvement to quality of life. I think that that kind of development I think can provide a lot of benefits. And I think I also want to appreciate like the fact that, yeah, it is big, but I think that it's been in process for like over 2 years. And I think that, I think moving things quickly is important. And that's it.
That's all, Madam President.
I want to thank everyone for the spoke tonight. Thank you, Director. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. Thank you, Director Zamp, for your introduction. Thank you, Ryan Porter, for being with us. I assume you're going to be with us the rest of the evening. So at this point, seeing no others wishing to comment, this meeting is adjourned.